Alright, here's one of the ones I've been messing with, and let's see what else I've got hidden in there. Here's the first one I did, and the bottom was really thin, so I made it a little bit thicker. So I'm just going to hide both of these by pressing the little light bulb. But you need to go to tinkercad.com and sign up for a free account. And once you have a free account, you'll have access to all your designs. You can create a new design, whatever. So I'm just going to continue working with this. So to move the base, I'm holding my right mouse button down, and to zoom in and out, I'm using my left or my scroll button or the wheel in the middle. So I'll try to keep track of what I'm doing so you'll know. So the two shapes I'm using is this cylinder and this cone, and then this cylinder to cut a hole. Even though any shape on here can be a hole, like if you need to use it as a cookie cutter, you just change it into a hole. So the first thing we're going to do is pull in the cylinder. So I just grabbed it and drug it over. Another tool that I'm using is inches to millimeter calculator. So just do a search for inches to millimeter, because I prefer to work in millimeters. You can change the settings down here to your workspace measurements. I've done that before and I don't remember why I don't like it, but I'm going by the measurements that I got off of some of the spools that I see online, and they have the drum height as 3.5 inches. But the first thing I want to do to any object that I bring in, I want to smooth it out. So they bring it in really rough. I don't know if you can tell with this recording, the edges are jagged. So I increase the segments, and that makes it more, it makes it smoother, and I increase the sides, and it really smooths it out. So all of that's going to show up in your prints if you don't set it at this point. And I find that you can set it here easier than after you've messed with the design over here. So every time you bring, some of them don't have it, but every time you bring in like a square, if you'll do this right away, and if these measurements aren't showing, it could be that that's just needs to be open. So I'm going to delete this box. I'm going to select the cylinder I just brought in. I've already smoothed everything out. I don't want to bevel to the top edge. That can reduce the sharpness of the edge a little bit if you mess with that. I already know that I want the diameter, so when you click one of these little white squares, it shows you the length and the width, and this little white square tells you the height of the object. This little black square raises it and lowers it off of the base, so that would be up above the base of your printer. So you can see a shadow that's letting me know that it's hovering there. So I'm going to press D to drop it back down to the base. Alright, so I needed my diameter to be, for the circumference is about 6.25, so I did a circumference calculator, and it makes it about 2 inches in diameter. So I'm going to make it, well, it's 50.8 for millimeters, but I'm just going to round it up to 51. I don't think it's going to make that much difference in a cross stitch pattern, but you can be more careful with it if you want to. So now I've got this short fat thing, but I need it to be 3.5 inches high, so I need it to be 89 millimeters. So I'm going to use my right mouse button and kind of move this thing a little bit. So if I click on that white square there, I can just type in 89. So that's going to make it tall. I'm going to scroll out so I can see more of it. Okay, so I've got my cylinder like I want it. I'm going to grab a cone, and again, you want to make changes when it opens up this dialog here. You want to make them now. So I'm going to change the sides as high as it'll go, and the height, I think that I had come up with about 11. So I'm going to go ahead and type it here. Sometimes it doesn't work right there. I want to change the width and the length and the width bigger than this thing. So this was 51. I'm trying to remember what I made this one. Let me just pull up that that base of that one so I can see. I made it 80. So I'm going to hide that. So That's 51. All right, so let's make this 80 because that's what I made the other. I don't know why I made it 80. I think I wanted it about an inch all the way around bigger. So you can make the base of it as big as you want. So I clicked on each of these little corner squares and change my numbers just by typing them in. So this thing is not very tall at this point. I also want to change the top radius to the diameter of this one is 51. So the radius is going to be 25.5, I think, is half of the diameter. So I'm going to change the top radius, and you can make it a little bit bigger so that you'll have a little bit of a ledge. So let's just make it 26. I don't think I did that on the other one. It's 26 millimeters. Oops. See, I told you when you start messing with this, let me go back and back and back. I'm going to change this radius before I change anything else. Let's just make the base radius 40, so that's half of the 80. Let's do it that way. And then, what did I say, 26? And then I want to make it, I left the 11. So now it looks right. So funny things can happen when you start messing here, but you've got your undo button that'll fix everything. So that's going to be the cone shape for the top, but remember I told you the edges were a little thin. So I'm going to grab another cylinder and bring it in here and make it, let's see, I keep forgetting that number, 80. I'm going to smooth everything out. I'm going to make the length and the width 80. Oops, it goes off screen there. And I want to make it only about 2 millimeters thick. It doesn't need to be very, very thick at all. So sometimes you have to click on another object because it won't let go of the one you're holding onto. So move that one out of the way, and I can drag my mouse to where these are, it's touching both of them, and then I'll use this alignment tool up here at the top that with it's got a little line through it, and then it'll bring these handles up. You can center them top and bottom in all kinds of ways, but I'm going to do horizontal and vertical, and see the ones that are centered are grayed out. So now they're on top. Wait a minute, one thing I forgot to do, I knew it looked funny. I need to raise this to, since this is 2 millimeters thick, I need to raise this one 2 millimeters. So I'm going to grab that black handle and raise it 2. So this number right here is changing, or I can type in there. So let's just drop it, press D, and do that again. So I usually start dragging it and then I type in the number that I want. Alright, so now I can touch both of them and align them. And now I can use this group button to weld them together. And now it's one object. So it's a little bit thicker along the edge. So the printer should print that pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to need a top and a bottom. So while that is selected, I'm going to press Control D to make an extra copy of that. Alright, so that's it for now before I cut the hole in the top. So remember that this thing is now, let's see how tall it is. I just hover my mouse over that button. It shows me it's 13 millimeters tall. I want this thing sitting on top of that thing. So I'm going to have to raise this 13 millimeters. So I'm going to grab that black handle and watch the numbers rise to 13, or I can type 13 in right there. So now I'm going to drag my mouse to where it's touching both of those, use my alignment tool, click that, and I'm going to weld them together. Okay, so that's one solid object now, and they can always be completely ungrouped all the way back to the beginning if there's any component you want to change. Alright, so this one is not facing the right direction, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Sometimes if these are in my way, I'll hide them so that they don't confuse me. You can also change colors here if you want to differentiate between objects. Okay, so while it's selected, I'm going to press this mirror tool, or you can press the letter M, and you can mirror it. If it's a funny shape, it would make a difference if you mirrored it left and right, but I'm going to press this up and down one to flip it, and so now it's upside down. but I need to see how tall this object, since we made a whole new object here, I need to see how tall it is so I can set that on top of it. So I'm going to hover my mouse over this little white square, and I see that that object is 102 millimeters. So I'm going to raise this one 102 millimeters. So I just start dragging it, and then I come over here and type 102, and then same thing. I just drag my mouse to where it's touching both of them, use the alignment tool, and oops, if you select off of it, it goes away. I have to right mouse so I can see it. There we go. And now if they weren't touching, they would not weld together. So you want to either make it a little bit shorter or exactly. So that's why I like to look at the measurement. So now that's one complete object. So now we need a hole to put our scissors in. So I had done one a half an inch wide, and I didn't really like it, so I really need to find the scissors that I'm actually going to use in it and determine how wide, but I'll just show you how to make the hole. You can use a cylinder hole that's already made, or you can turn any shape on here into a hole. Like I can take this whole shape and turn it into a hole, and it becomes a cookie cutter, and whatever I place it on top of, it's going to cut a hole in this shape. But I want it solid, so I can change it whatever color. Alright, so I'm going to grab this cylinder hole. It's a cylinder that's been turned into a hole. I'm going to smooth it out like I always do. I actually want to make it taller than this, so it's 115, so because I'm going to cut the hole all the way through. If you didn't want the hole to go all the way through to the bottom, you can just raise it up a few millimeters. But I'm going to press D to drop it back down. I think that I had tried, let me see, I'm going to do a conversion here. 3/8 of an inch is about 9.5 millimeters. So let's just change this to 10. And I can do a test to see if I like, if I like that size. You can take any kind of little object here and drill a hole in it and print just that small object, just to test out holes to see how well you like them. So I'm going to drag my mouse to where it's touching both of those. I'm going to align them center and center, and I'm going to press the group, and that is going to cut a hole in the middle. Sometimes it has to think about it a little while. I don't know if you can see this on screen, but there's something going on. Sometimes on Tinkercad, it is a free program. Sometimes it doesn't refresh. So I'll usually just start playing with another object and it'll show up. So that hole looks a lot smaller than the one I did before. So I actually, before I print this up, I want to measure some scissors and then come back in here. If I don't like that size hole, all I have to do is select that and ungroup it, and it'll ungroup the last level that I did. And you'd keep pressing ungroup until you ungroup as many levels, and then you can change just that cylinder hole, and it's really easy to undo things that you've done in the past or redo them. All right, so that to me is ready to go. And so I would hit, if you had a bunch of objects on the table, you would select the one that you want to export and then press export, and then you would say I want to export the selected shape. If you did everything in the design, like if you had a bunch of objects there, it's going to show up in your slicing software with a whole bunch of stuff on your printer bed. So I like to do one shape at a time. And you want to choose STL because that's the type of file that you can send to the Creality software. And if I click that, it's going to ask me where I want to save it, or it might just go to your download folder. So right now I don't want to upload that, but that's how I built this simple shape. And there's all kinds of shapes in here that you can play with. You can actually add text, although they don't let you change the font. There's not many fonts to choose from. So I hope this helps you, give you some ideas on some basic things that you can draw. I haven't done any technical things. It's mostly just geometric shapes.